The term living legend gets thrown around a lot, but today we will meet one. The life and career of John Gunselman on this edition of Viewfinder. John Gunselman is an award-winning cinematographer with over 20 years of experience in features, commercials, and documentaries. It is an honor to have him here on Viewfinder. Welcome, John.
So it's a pleasure to be with you, man. It's good to see you.
You know, John, when I first came to Cincinnati in 1992, and I started working with some of the local film community here, the name that came up over and over again was Gunselman. Because I don't think I ever heard anybody ever refer to you as John, except when they said, what's his name? And they said John Gunselman. But everybody said Gunselman, Gunselman, Gunselman. So, I mean, you really are, in this market, in this city, to me, a living legend. Because everybody I know who goes back to the days of the young people specials and everything else, you know, you were there when the scene was exploding, when television was exploding in Cincinnati in film. But let's start at the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born here in Cincinnati on the east side. I'm an east side guy. I still get lost on the west side of town.
That's fantastic. Where'd you go to high school?
McNicholas in Anderson Township.
Excellent. What did your parents do for a living?
My mother was a homemaker and my dad was a master machinist.
Wow. Okay. Now, when did you first get your first camera? When did the bug, did you go to movies or watch TV?
I went to movies, surely. On the east side in Anderson Township, actually in Mount Washington, there was a very small theater, the Elston on Beachmont Avenue.
Wow.
And they had almost every weekend they would have some, at that time, old film they would run for a matinee. And I would go there quite often to see whatever was running. The first film, first camera I ever owned was a small little, like a Brownie Hawkeye, I believe.
Those brownies.
And the first motion picture camera I ever had was a little 8mm Kodak wind-up thing that had a single lens on the front. And my brother and I used to make little movies about that. I think the first one was an epic called Daniel Boone Moves West.
Did you have the coonskin cap and everything?
No, I was shooting it. I wasn't in it.
But did your brother have the coonskin cap?
No, we didn't go that far with it. I don't think the budget would have allowed it, unfortunately.
That's fantastic, man. So when did you say, I, John Gunselman, am going to be in the motion picture business? And why did you decide to be a director of photography as opposed to a director?
Well, ultimately, I did become a director. I'm now a member of the Directors Guild. But
oh, congratulations. How long have you been with the DGA?
Since I directed episodic television for Warner Brothers, probably 12 years ago, 10 years ago.
Fantastic. I'm DGA too. So that's fantastic.
So that's great. Yeah. And around here, out of the Midwest, we're sort of few and far between.
Yeah, you don't meet too many DGA members.
It is.
So we got to go out and have drinks sometime and swap more stories.
Indeed.
Okay, great. Because see, I asked that because every time I talk to somebody about John Gunselman, they think director of photography.
Well, cinematography was my first love, and it was just, to me, it was a great way to do something I enjoyed and actually get paid for it, which was pretty good.
Exactly.
So I started doing it and found I loved it truly a great amount. First thing I ever did here in town was when I was in high school, I functioned as a stringer for Channel 5. Now, a stringer, as you probably know, is a guy who they will call in to shoot a story if their people are too busy to handle. And I ended up shooting a number of stories like that for them. I owned a 16mm camera at that time and was able to fall right into that.
Some people can't even comprehend the idea of shooting the news with 16mm film.
Oh, absolutely. You know? And that's the way it was. It would be shot, it would be brought back to the television studio, it would then be developed and rushed back into the film chain and put on the air. Pretty amazing stuff.
I know.
But I did that and they hired me and I actually shot newsreel film for them for a period of like 6 months or so.
Wow.
And then the guy who was in charge of that division, a gentleman by the name of Gene McPherson, who is a legend around here too. Anybody who worked at Avco or is quite familiar with that name. He hired me, and in a short period of time, I ended up doing corporate documentaries for them. At that time, Avco had bought. It was Avco Broadcasting, Avco Corporation, Avco being an acronym for Aviation Corporation, also bought something called Joseph E. Levine's Embassy Pictures in New York.
Wow.
Embassy Pictures was a company that did a lot of low-budget movies like Hercules, Unchained, and things of that sort. But they also became Avco Embassy Pictures, and a division of that company released our documentaries, which were hour-long episodes, not just nationwide, but worldwide.
Wow.
And some of these things were pretty heavy, weighty subjects. One had to do with a show called Who's Home, This Holy Land, which we went to the Mideast and dealt with the Arab-Israeli conflict.
Wow.
There was one called For Children, which ultimately became the pilot for Young People's series, which went on for many, many years thereafter.
A lot of people ate off those Young People series.
Oh, they absolutely did. And that was a breeding ground for just so many people around here in town. It was, and that was run by a gentleman by the name of Tom Robertson, who I think currently lives in Nashville. Great guy. He would write and produce the shows, and he was just a great guy.
Wow.
So a lot of that, it was just a terrific opportunity to do stuff.
And this all happened for you in this market in Cincinnati.
Oh, absolutely. And it allowed me to do stuff that otherwise you never would have been able to. If you shot something, you edited. So by editing, it then gave you an eye. Next time you shoot something, you shoot something to keep it to the bone.
You got to shoot for the edit.
Shoot for the shoot for the edit is absolutely true. So that was a learning experience that you probably could not buy.
No.
And it was just fabulous. It was just fabulous. And I go back to those days with we did not make very much money, but
the experience?
The experience is priceless.
Well, let's look at some of the experiences. Let's set up your first clip. What's the first clip?
I'm not sure which one you're going to run first. I brought 3 clips.
I think we're going to run the commercial reel first.
Yeah, the commercial reel. Over the years, I've done many, many commercials. You and I have had a chance to work together on one or two occasions.
Exactly.
And I remember.
And it was a great honor.
Well, it was a great fun. Those were great projects.
Exactly.
What you're going to see here is just a compilation of shots against a music score, just to give you a wide range of many of the projects that I've shot.
Fantastic. Let's check it out. Man, did you feel like you were watching your life flash before your eyes?
No, that's a mere portion of it.
I know, right? All the stuff you shot. About how much footage or film time do you think you've shot? Like thousands of hours?
Well, that would be, certainly, surely. That would be a tough call. Nobody has ever asked me that.
Right.
I'll think about that and get back to you.
Okay. Let's talk about what's interesting to me and people don't understand. To me, they're two of the most intimate collaborations that a director can have when he's creating something is the relationship with his DP and the relationship with his editor. Because that's very one-on-one, that's very much, in close, this is what we're trying to do and everything else. Now, you as a director, you also have the advantage of understanding both sides. How do you collaborate, or how do you prefer to collaborate with a director when you're a director of photography?
The collaboration between a DP and a director is, without a doubt, the most important connection on whether it be a movie or a TV commercial or a documentary or anything. One has to always remember that the director is the boss. It's his vision that has to end up on screen. Good directors know how to collaborate and get the most out of their DP and their editor and their performers as well. So it is a collaborative job, and that sounds very trite, but it just is. There's no way you can say this is how you have to do it, this is what you need to do. You have to get along with the people you're working with, you have to respect the people you're working with, and you have to be open for ideas and changes like that. So it's just being available to whatever is out there, to be able to have a good game plan going into it, but be able to change it on a dime.
Wow. That's right. Well, you and I, like I said, there were a couple of spots we worked on in your reel, and I remember what a pleasure it was, because I think the reason you and I clicked is that we both understand lenses, we understand camera movement, we understand that every cut has a meaning, we understand that every lens has language. Like wide lenses tend to be funnier up close, and long lenses are serious, but sometimes we'll mix what those lenses mean. I mean, you just really have to understand
that's very true, and that is something as a director of photography, as a cinematographer, you just have worked with it so much it becomes second nature. This shot feels like it should be a wide lens and close, and maybe I want to look out way back. It's just an intuitive thing. That also becomes an issue of T-stop, the exposure working with that wide lens up close, but I want to drop it down with enough neutral density so that I have a wide aperture. And I can fuzz out the background, even with a wide lens. So it's those are ways of speaking via film that usually go over an audience's head, but not really. Subliminally, they do involve an audience.
They might not know they're being affected, but they're being affected. Now, sometimes when I teach some of my students and my mentees, I always talk about the British style of directing versus the American style of directing. The British style of directing is I, as a director, work with you, the director of photography, and I have a very strong opinion about what lens, where the camera goes, and everything else, and you collaborate and said, okay, I could deal with that, maybe this or that, but he's very involved with that, and he's involved with the actors. Whereas the American style of directing is I'm the director, I deal with the actors, you're the director of photography, you deal with the look. You light it, and you take care of all of that. You take care and deal with the camera. We'll come together and figure it out, but mostly the look. Have you been in those kind of scenarios, and is there one you prefer over the other?
I've been in both, and I don't know of any director that I've ever had the pleasure of working with who has not had some sort of an input in what they want to say and perhaps how they want to say it. But usually, almost exclusively, not that I want this lens, I want it over here, and I want it like that. That's a very Hitchcockian way. Supposedly Hitchcock made the film on a desktop, and then, gee, he had to go out and
he drew it out and then go make the movie.
And I want a 50 millimeter here, I want it for here. And most directors aren't that dictatorial, and I don't mean that in a negative sense. Usually, the DP can bring an awful lot to it. So again, it gets down to collaboration. That's again is a very nebulous concept, but when it works, it works.
Have you ever felt like a director didn't trust you as a director of photography?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, good for
no,
you. Yeah.
luckily, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, because I've been in situations actually where I've worked with DPs who I guess thought they had a better vision for the project than I did.
Right.
And I hate being in those situations because then you have to be very, no, this is what I want.
Right.
As opposed to somebody who's like, look, we're working together on this. You had somebody who was like, every lens or every thing you wanted to do, they had a question about, or they were like saying, well, why do you want to do that? And so,
I think that's too much minutia. I mean, the end result is the performance and the film, and
Right.
obviously the grammar of film, it dictates what lenses and stuff like that. But in my experience, it has never gone down to that
Right.
minute
Right.
detail.
Right.
Maybe I've been very lucky.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
You
don't
have been
know.
very lucky.
Well, I'm sure I have.
You've had a great career, man. Let's look at some more of your luck. Let's set up this next clip. Now, we saw your commercials. Now, what are we getting ready to look at now?
These are clips from motion pictures I've shot.
Yes, as director of photography and director?
Director of photography. No, not as director.
Okay.
DP on these.
Well, we got to bring you back and you got to show us some of your directorial work sometime.
Well, we'll see. That's
All right.
primarily episodic TV.
I love that.
Well,
yeah, we can we'll edit it down and we'll check it out.
That sounds great.
People need to know about that.
That sounds great.
Okay.
But these are all DP projects I shot for Disney, for Warner Brothers, a couple of independents,
Right.
and things of that sort.
That's fantastic. John Gunselman from Cincinnati shooting for Disney and Warner Brothers. You got to love it. Let's check it out.
Okay, let's just get it out in the open. We all know why the new rule was made. It's so I don't walk away with it again this year.
It?
The season, the championship, the whole enchilada like I have for the past 8 years.
Who would instruct us?
Let's look at the next kid or get another beer. I don't care which.
Truth is, they couldn't tilt the field enough for you guys to beat me, period. End of story.
What did the great Bobby Geiser say?
Okay, here it is. You give me 9 of the worst players, the losers of the league. You choose them. I'll take 5 kids. I pick them. Now, that's 2 lousy players for every decent kid. And I got $1,000 says I can still kick your asses.
Unforgettable, that's what you are.
Unforgettable, though near or far.
Like a song of love that clings to me, how the thought of you does things to me never before has someone been more
Unforgettable in every way.
and forevermore.
And forevermore,
That's how you'll stay.
that's how you'll stay.
That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable
Thinks that I am unforgettable too. unforgettable, thinks that I am unforgettable too.
That is great, John.
Thank you,
That
sir.
is great.
Thank you.
Just a couple of things. I mean, in that we saw Zac Efron.
Yes.
Before he was Zac Efron.
Yes.
We saw Patrick Duffy, James Coburn, who's
Yes.
one of my favorite actors. You've been very blessed and privileged to work with some extremely gifted people.
Those guys are just fabulous.
Yeah, both in front and behind the camera.
Yes, indeed.
We probably gonna have to do a second edition with you, John, because I'd love for you to break down to the audience sometimes for lack of a better word, the hierarchy on a set, from the director to the director of photography to the gaffer to and everybody and
Well, there truly is a set etiquette, and it's the most important thing to honor that etiquette and accept it and utilize it. So that's very true. But but I have been really lucky working with some people like that, and it has always impressed me when I meet someone like a James Coburn or a Patrick Duffy. How truly nice
and
these
genuine
people
they
are. These are not people on an ego trip. They've been there, they've done that, and I'm just overwhelmed. That one little clip, there was a clip of, what's his name?
Which, Coburn or?
No.
Billy Preston?
Billy Preston.
Billy
I'm sorry,
Preston,
Billy Preston showed
Music
up
legend.
on set, and he was just one of the nicest men.
And he was quite ill at the time.
He was quite
long after
ill
that.
at the time.
Wow.
But these people who, those are living legends.
Right.
Those are truly living legends.
Well, talking about let's talk about bringing legends to life. Now you branched out into, is this your first coffee table book?
My first book, period.
Your first book,
The only
period.
writing I've ever done prior to this was some articles for American Cinematographer magazine.
Well, that's good there.
Well,
I love it. You've written for American Cinematographer?
Oh, I have.
Oh, I love it. Well, this is The Civil War in Color, an amazing book, and this is a passion project for you.
It is.
And why did you create this book, this coffee table book? It's the old Civil War photographs, and they've been colorized. What was the thinking
The
behind
genesis of this book, my wife and I were vacationing on Maui a few years ago, and she was reading a book about the Civil War. I was very aware at that time that the Civil War sesquicentennial was just down the road a little bit.
Right.
And somehow, can't really tell you quite how, but somehow that evolved into an idea of why I've never seen these pictures colorized. Let's see if we can do that. So we got back from vacation. I did some research. I found out that from Library of Congress, I was able to download these things.
For free.
For free. There was no charge to download them.
Because they're public domain.
They are totally public domain. I loaded them at the highest resolution, which is uncompressed TIFF files. Some of them are scanned at up to 4,000 DPI resolution. Wow. And that, of course, allowed me to move in and in on these things and colorize them and to a level that just unbelievable. All the while that project was moving forward, I just kept worrying, this idea is so good. Someone is going to get to the thing before me, but luckily no one did.
And now who published this?
It's published by Sterling Publishing in New York. Sterling is a wholly owned subsidiary of Barnes & Noble. So the mesh could not have been better.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, I know you've got a video of some of the images, right?
Yes.
So let's check that out.
This is a thing that's on the book's website.
Excellent. Let's check it out. Wow. And John, like you and I were talking about in the pre-interview, putting these in color brings them to life and lets you understand that this was just 2 lifetimes ago, 150 years
Right,
ago.
150 years, and
Wow.
that's truly astounding. Most people have seen these things as black and white,
Yeah.
and they're sort of hidden behind a veil of gray.
Right.
Most kids have never, just can't even imagine
Right,
that
right.
this was such a short period of time ago.
Right. And-
So it
And
just
this
seems
makes
like
it so relevant and contemporary.
it's so terribly relevant
Yeah.
and contemporary, and it was a great work of love for me to do it.
Where can people get the book?
Any Barnes & Noble store, anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com.
Fantastic.
So almost anywhere.
And they should buy it and carry them with them everywhere they go. So if they ever see John Gunselman in the street, they can get you to sign it.
Be more than happy.
Like
to
you
do
were
so.
gracious enough to sign this for me. I will treasure this, John.
It was a pleasure.
I really was. John, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to
Thank
come
you.
on and do a part 2. We're going to have you back to do a part 2 because we didn't even get a chance to talk about the people who you brought into the business. Like Jeff Barklett reveres you. I mean, he says he has a career because of you. So we got to get into all that. But you are truly a living legend, John, and this has been my honor to have you.
A sequel. Thank you so much, so.
Absolutely. John Gunselman personifies what Confucius once said: find a job that you love, and you will never work a day in your life. Here's hoping your avocation becomes your vocation when you look through your viewfinder. Cut.